Are you working? Come on, time machine. Come on. Whoa, I'm over here now. Let me try one more crank. Whoa, okay. I gotta see what time it is. I need to find a clock, something that tells time. Oh, I have my watches here. Let me see. Well, 1991? No, that's not it. How about here? 1980? No. Ah, there we are. 2022. We're back in the present. Got to keep my watches with me, otherwise I have no clue what time it is. Well, hello, and welcome back to Time Travel Comics. Today we're going to shine another spotlight on one single issue and explore it and learn about that particular book. I want to thank everybody that watched the last video I posted about comics from 1966. It was a lot of fun, and it was a big year in comics, especially for the Silver Age. But today, I'm going to use my time machine here to travel back in time just around that same period, just a couple years later, to 1968. It was a marvelous time for Marvel Comics, that is, as there were a lot of great issues that came out. And one of them, there's your clue, is the one I want to explore. So, without further ado, let's use this time machine, and this time I'm going to keep track of time so I don't get lost. I had to search a jar of pennies to find this particular one from 1968, and that's how the time machine works. It uses the carbon and luster of the coin so we can retrieve those books from the past. How about it? Here we go now. It looks like our time machine is in working order as I can hear the ticking sound. Our comic book will be arriving shortly. I want to shine a spotlight on a particular book from 1968. And that was a marvelous year for Marvel, no pun intended, because a lot of number one issues came out at that time for Captain America, for example, Captain Marvel, Silver Surfer, and the list goes on. It was a nice debut year where some of the series that we know and love today for the Marvel Comics began. And here we are, the book that I want to shine a spotlight on today, and that's the Invincible Iron Man, issue number 1, his big premiere issue of May of 1968. So this book does not feature the first appearance of Iron Man, rather the initiation of his own series. He first appeared in Tales of Suspense, number 39. But here we can take in the beautiful work as cover pencils by Genecolan. You'll note the figurative drawing are very fluid and very loose, as we have Iron Man embracing us with the chest plate forward, his face mask upward, and just shows the struggle and power that Iron Man portrays. What's interesting to note about Genecolan, he was different than most Silver Age artists in that he drew more shadows and darkness to really create a depth and perspective. The Silver Age artists at the time usually used more outlines, more darkened contour rather than shadows. So it's interesting to note that technique that Genecolan brings. We should also give credit to Mike Esposito for his inking skills, as Mike Esposito typically worked with Ross Andru for DC Comics, creating Wonder Woman covers and interior artwork. But here we see Mike Esposito jumping ship and being a part of Marvel and working with Genecolan. And actually, Genecolan only illustrated this cover and didn't do too much more for this book, except making an appearance in the mid 200 run of Iron Man. So just take a look at everything here. A very common cover, but a beautiful one that I wanted to shine a spotlight on. As we turn the pages, a different artist take part inside the interior artwork, including Johnny Craig. So Genecolan is still back in there. Archie Goodwin created the story, and we could see AIM, which stands for the Advanced Idea Mechanics, They're a group of scientists that work for Hydra, that also work for Magia, which is a crime group. And here they are trying to capture Iron Man and to keep going with their evil plans. But we see here Iron Man being sucked through a tube here. And you could see the AIM scientists working with their typical hoods and scientific costumes, rather. And Iron Man is kind of helpless. He's actually gassed and knocked unconscious. And here we find our hero having to turn things around. So it takes place on board the Magia ship where they have a casino. So the people on the upper deck are scrambling to get free. When here we have Jasper Sitwell from S.H.I.E.L.D. trying to safely bring the people away as Iron Man is in the bowels of the ship, knocked unconscious. So an interesting adventure. You can see the boat capsizing, Jasper Sitwell coordinating everything he can with S.H.I.E.L.D., and meanwhile, Whitney Frost, aka Madame Mask, is in the background causing some chaos. So here we have our hero magnetically clamped to the steel table, and he has to find his way out. And this is where Iron Man issue number 1 gets interesting on pages 10 and 11, as we have a character here introduced, Mortius, who is a scientist and henchman of the Magia crime group, trying to use radiation to capture the details of Iron Man's suit to recreate replicas. And he's successful in doing this as Iron Man is knocked unconscious because he creates 3 of his suits, 1, 2, and 3 right there, as Iron Man comes to his feet and his wits. So it's this part of the book is where the story turns as Iron Man regains consciousness and smashes through the table that was holding him down and is no longer subjected to the gas and is about to wreak havoc. And as we turn to the next page, we see a full page of the glory of genecolan's work and Johnny Craig's inking right here. And you could see the AIM scientists in the replica suits here, the trio here, trying to bash and attack Iron Man, but he's able to thwart it off, and he knows that the imitation circuitry is not yet perfected, so these 3 men cannot control the power of the suit. Only Iron Man can. Meanwhile, Mortius is standing watch. So a lot of great action here. You see the speed, the sheer action, the blast, the zap, and it really makes issue number 1 begin with a bang. And we know from the Iron Man franchise how a lot of the evil doers want to capture and recreate his armor. And here we have one of the first instances is where they successfully recreate it, but everything goes amok. So just wanted to show you that and the inside of the work and his first dedicated Iron Man book debut. Great. Wonderful. This book wouldn't have been made possible without the Tales of Suspense series. And shining a spotlight on this book, I also want to shine a quick spotlight on this book as well, Iron Man and the Submariner. This was actually a one-shot. It was only created in April of that same year of 1968, just to introduce the characters together. So looking into the book here, we also have Stan Lee at the helm, the inking by Johnny Craig, genecolan, and Archie Goodwin. Archie Goodwin creating the story and genecolan masterfully drawing it. And here he is before this issue, because this is a continuation, part 1 and part 2 of the story. Our hero here is fighting AIM. We also have Whiplash in the scheme of things. He was already introduced in a couple issues back. And we have Namor in his own story. So just wanted to shine another little spotlight on part 1 before part 2, because the continuation was in an Iron Man of Iron Man and the Submariner. Look at that. I want to show you an interesting part of the book, pages 10 and 11, featuring Mortius the villain and Iron Man as he breaks free, and how they create reprints or reproductions of the original book. So I'm going to carefully move Iron Man 1 aside, and we are looking at some reproduction art from genecolan and Marvel in the way of recreating the book. So this is an acetate sheet. It's clear, you can pick it up and you can see right through it. And it's meant to guide publishers as to the colors and the reproduction with the inks of where the alignment is. Here you can see where the stencil lines the book up or the page, different colors in the corner like black. This is yellow, this is blue, and that's red. And this overlay serves to provide a guide for pages 10 right here and pages 11. So you can see genecolan's work in its purity and the inking done because it doesn't have the color. But it's a neat part of comic book history. And you can kind of see how transparent it is in the event that Marvel wanted to revisit and reproduce it. These are now obsolete because a lot of this is done digitally and prints are scanned into the computer and embellished with color and art, and the graphic software can easily fill in the color within. But before, you had to rely on a painstaking approach of putting one color at a time as they layer onto each other, and then the ink on top, such as this, to create the full book. So a lot of the time, the books would have to be run through the press multiple times with multiple colors until it created what we see here in the comic book. And that's an interesting process. I just like seeing that and having owning a part of some history here, pages 10 and 11. And speaking about reproduction art, I want to introduce a recreation of that first issue that we saw. And this is from the year 2020, introducing Iron Man 2020 as the title. And this is a variant cover. It was created by Matthew Damasi. And it's a shattered cover. So like it looks like little tiles and pieces put together. And you could see the men from AIM that we saw in the background right there, and all the action that we see here from the beginning. It's just a great little homage, a good reproduction of the faithful original cover as I bring it next to it, side-by-side comparison. And you can see just the likeness is right there. It almost looks like ancient Roman antiquity where you find those pieces on the side of the vase of all those bits and pieces. So here we have Matthew Damasi paying respect to genecolan's greatness and the spotlight that we're shining on Iron Man issue number 1. A marvelous year for Marvel, introducing Silver Surfer in his own book, Captain Marvel, even Captain America, and we also have Iron Man. I want to thank everybody for watching and for watching my previous videos from 1966 and the ones before.